Steelers fans, stop what you're doing right now because the biggest names in football media just dropped their latest mock drafts, and there is a brand new player surging up the boards for Pittsburgh at pick 21. We're talking Mel Kiper Jr., Joel Klatt, Daniel Jeremiah, all of them weighing in, and what they're projecting might completely reshape how you think about the Steelers' draft strategy this year. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a single update as we count down to draft night. Trust me, you're going to want to be here for every bit of this. All right, let's dive straight into this because there is a lot to unpack. Free agency just wrapped up its first full week, and as always, the landscape of the NFL draft shifts dramatically once teams start making moves. Guys sign with new teams, holes open up on rosters, and suddenly the projections change overnight. And that's exactly what happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers, because right now there is one name that keeps popping up over and over and over again across nearly every major mock draft out there, and that name is the Penn State guard, the absolute mauler from Happy Valley, Adonai Iwan. Now, let me give you some background here, because if you haven't been tracking the offensive line landscape for Pittsburgh this offseason, you need to understand why this name suddenly matters so much. Isaac Sumalo, the Steelers' starting left guard, left in free agency. He signed with the Arizona Cardinals. And just like that, a gaping hole opened up on an offensive line that Pittsburgh has spent the last couple of years carefully rebuilding. Omar Khan, the Steelers' general manager, has made it a point of emphasis to invest in the trenches since he took over. He's drafted offensive and defensive linemen early in virtually every draft he's overseen. So it should not surprise anyone that the national media is looking at this team and saying, yeah, they're going to go right back to the well and grab another big man up front. And the guy they keep landing on is Iwan. Mel Kiper Jr., the godfather of the NFL draft himself, the man who's been doing this longer than most of us have been alive, he's got Iwan going to the Steelers at 21 in his latest post-free agency mock. And Kiper doesn't mince words about it either. He points out that the quarterback situation in Pittsburgh is still murky. The top two quarterbacks in this class are already off the board by the time pick 21 rolls around in his projection, and he doesn't see a third quarterback worthy of a first-round selection at that spot. So instead of reaching for a signal caller, Kiper says the Steelers should pivot and replace Sumalo with the best pure guard in the entire draft, and that's Iwan. Kiper highlights the kid's raw power, his ability to physically move defenders out of the way at the point of attack, and his surprisingly light feet that allow him to climb to the second level and erase linebackers in the run game. Oh, and by the way, this guy did not give up a single sack last season, not one. At Penn State, playing in the Big Ten against some of the nastiest defensive fronts in college football, 0 sacks allowed. That is elite-level pass protection, and it's exactly the kind of trait that translates immediately to the NFL. But here's where it gets really interesting. Kiper isn't alone on this one, not even close. Joel Klatt from Fox Sports, one of the sharpest minds in college football broadcasting, also has Iwan going to Pittsburgh at 21. And Klatt was genuinely fired up about this pick. He basically said that when he was doing his mock and got to the Steelers selection, he looked at the board and couldn't believe Iwan was still sitting there. He said something to the effect of, if this guy's available at 21, Pittsburgh should sprint to the podium. Sprint. Not walk, not jog. Sprint. Klatt called him the best interior offensive lineman in the entire draft class and said it's not even close. He used words like nasty, athletic, and tough to describe Iwan's playing style, and he flat out said he loves this pick for Pittsburgh, not likes it. Loves it. And then you've got Gordon McGuinness from Pro Football Focus chiming in with basically the same projection. McGuinness also has Iwan landing with the Steelers at 21, and he backs it up with the analytics. According to PFF's grading system, Iwan posted an elite 90.9 pass blocking grade on true pass sets, which was the highest mark among all guards in the entire country. First among every single guard in college football. That's not just good, that's historically good. McGuinness even acknowledges that Iwan might get snatched up before 21, which tells you just how highly regarded this prospect is across the scouting community. The fact that 3 major analysts from 3 different outlets are all converging on the same player for the Steelers should tell you something. This isn't a fluke projection. This is a genuine possibility. Now, here's where the conversation gets a little more nuanced, and I think this is important for every Steelers fan to think about. Is Iwan a great prospect? Absolutely. Would he immediately upgrade the left guard position? Without question. But should the Steelers feel forced to spend a first-round pick on a guard when there are still quality veterans available in free agency? That's the real debate. Think about it. Joel Bitonio is still out there on the open market. This is a guy who was arguably the best offensive lineman on the Cleveland Browns last season. He's been one of the most consistent guards in the league for years, and he's not going to command some massive contract at this stage of his career. You could bring him in on a reasonable deal and plug him right into that left guard spot. Brock Hoffman is another name that's been linked to the Steelers already this offseason. There was actually a bit of a false alarm earlier in free agency where people thought a deal might be close, but he's still available. Kevin Zeitler is out there too. If you wanted to get creative, you could sign Zeitler to play right guard and slide Mason McCormick over to the left side. Greg Van Roten and Mekhi Becton are also still unsigned, and both of them could contribute along the interior. And then there's James Daniels, a guy who already knows this organization because he spent multiple seasons in Pittsburgh. He's likely available at a bargain price. Any one of those veterans could come in and hold down the fort at left guard, which would free up the Steelers to use that first-round pick on a more premium position. And when we say premium position, we're obviously talking about wide receiver. This is a phenomenal receiver class. Guys like Tetairoa McMillan, Travis Hunter, Luther Burden, and several others are expected to come off the board in the first round. If Pittsburgh can address the guard spot in free agency and then grab a difference-making weapon for whoever ends up being the quarterback, that feels like the optimal path. Receivers change games. They put points on the board. They make your quarterback's life infinitely easier. And right now, this Steelers receiver room could use a jolt of electricity. And this is a big but, if the Steelers get to draft night and all of the top receivers are gone, if McMillan and Hunter and the other blue-chip pass catchers have already been scooped up, then Iwan becomes an absolute home run pick at 21. No question about it. You'd be getting a day-one starter, a tone setter in the run game, and an elite pass protector all rolled into one. And considering Omar Khan's track record of drafting trench players in the first round, it honestly wouldn't surprise anyone if that's exactly how this plays out. Now, let's shift gears because Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network threw a bit of a curveball in his latest mock draft. Instead of a guard, Jeremiah has the Steelers selecting Blake Miller, a right tackle out of Clemson at number 21, and this one raised some eyebrows. Jeremiah's logic goes like this: Broderick Jones has been underwhelming at left tackle. If Pittsburgh drafts Miller to play right tackle, they could slide Troy Fautanu over to the left side where he originally played during his college career at Washington. That would theoretically give you two young athletic bookend tackles and push Jones into more of a swing or backup role. And look, from a pure talent standpoint, the idea of Fautanu at left tackle isn't crazy. He played there in college and played well. The Steelers moved him to the right side when he got to the NFL because that's where he played in high school, and the transition happened pretty quickly. He's really only had about 1 year of experience on the right side at the pro level since his rookie season was limited by injuries. Moving him back to the left wouldn't be some monumental adjustment. The issue, though, is that this projection kind of ignores a player who quietly emerged as a legitimate option last season, and that's Dylan Cook. Now, most national media analysts probably didn't watch enough Steelers games to notice what Cook did down the stretch. This is a guy who is basically a practice squad level player, a complete unknown to most people outside of Pittsburgh, but when he got his chance on the field late in the season, he played like a legit starting left tackle. He held his own, he competed, and right now he's costing the Steelers practically nothing on the salary cap. It wouldn't be surprising at all if the team goes into training camp with Cook and Jones battling it out for the starting left tackle job. That's a real competition that could play out, and it would mean Pittsburgh doesn't necessarily need to spend a premium pick on a tackle. As for Miller specifically, there's also a value question. Is he worth the 21st overall pick? Some evaluators see him more as a late first round or early second round prospect. He's a big physical player with solid movement skills for his size. A lot of people have compared him to Brian O'Neill, who has been a very good right tackle for the Minnesota Vikings when healthy. That's a solid comp. But reaching for a player 5 or 6 spots above where his talent would naturally slot him isn't ideal draft management. If the Steelers really want Miller, there might be a way to trade back a few spots, accumulate an extra pick, and still get him. That would be the smarter play. Now strap in for this last one because this is the pick that's going to spark the most debate in every Steelers group chat, every message board, every comment section across the internet. Mike Renner from CBS Sports is projecting that the Pittsburgh Steelers will select Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson in the first round. And I know, every single time we do one of these mock draft roundups, at least one analyst has a quarterback going to Pittsburgh. And it's going to keep happening until this team finds its long-term answer at the position. That's just the reality. Let me give you the full picture on Simpson because I think a lot of fans are too quick to dismiss him based on how his season at Alabama ended. Yes, the SEC championship game performance was rough. Yes, Alabama got demolished by Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Those are legitimate concerns. But if you actually go back and watch the full body of work from the beginning of the season all the way through, there is a lot of really impressive pro-ready stuff on that film. Simpson is arguably the most polished under-center quarterback in this entire draft class. He's operated a pro-style offense at Alabama, which is rare in today's college football landscape where everything is shotgun and RPOs. He rips seam balls. He throws intermediate dig routes with anticipation and accuracy. He processes full field reads better than any other quarterback in this class, and in my opinion, it's not particularly close. His arm is stronger than people give him credit for. His playmaking ability outside of structure is underrated, and his throwing mechanics are clean and repeatable. There was actually a really interesting point made on ESPN recently comparing Simpson's skill set to Brock Purdy. And think about that for a second. Since Purdy took over as the starter in San Francisco, there hasn't been a more productive quarterback in the NFL. Now imagine that same type of player, but with a stronger arm. That's what Simpson could potentially be, a quarterback who can efficiently run an NFL offense, make plays when things break down, and has the physical tools to push the ball downfield. If you pair that with a coach like Mike McCarthy, who was specifically hired because of his track record developing quarterbacks, the fit starts to make a lot of sense. Renner's reasoning for this pick ties directly to the McCarthy hiring. The Steelers brought in McCarthy because they want someone who can mold a young quarterback. Simpson's mental processing and pro-style experience make him perhaps the most McCarthy-ready prospect in this entire class. If you're going to hire a quarterback developer as your head coach, at some point, you need to give him a quarterback to develop. Now, here's the catch, and it's a significant one. Simpson probably isn't going to be sitting there at 21. His film is too good. His traits are too appealing. Teams that need a franchise quarterback are going to covet him. Look at the teams picking ahead of Pittsburgh. The Arizona Cardinals at 3 could trade down and target Simpson at a lower slot. The Cleveland Browns have 2 first-round picks and could use one to grab him. The Los Angeles Rams at 13 need a long-term successor to Matthew Stafford, and the New York Jets at 16 have Geno Smith as a bridge but desperately need a future at the position. If Simpson is still on the board when the Jets pick at 16, he's almost certainly becoming a Jet. That means if the Steelers truly want him, they'd have to trade up inside the top 15, and trading up in the first round isn't cheap. You're giving up future capital, you're mortgaging assets, and you're making a definitive statement that this is your guy. There are also legitimate questions about whether Simpson can hold up physically in the AFC North. This division